If you've ever used a dating app, you've probably had some bad experiences, and you may have wondered, has anyone ever been murdered off of one of these things? Well, let me show you. So this guy, his name's Ethan, and he's a goofy, fun-loving guy. He works at a concrete company, and his customers love him, his coworkers love him. Ethan's life is good. And Ethan is also married. And one day, he and his wife, they aren't seeing eye to eye. And soon, they're arguing all the time, and this is stressing him out, and it's really affecting his mental health. And he's anxious, and he's distracted, and his wife is worried about him, and she suggests that he get some help. But he doesn't, so nothing changes, and unfortunately, they end up separating. And Ethan is devastated about this. How could she leave him? And pretty quickly, he gets really depressed, and soon enough, everyone starts to notice. His friends and his coworkers, they barely recognize him. Like, he used to be so much fun to work with, and now he's just kind of a bummer. And not only that, he starts to think really dark, violent thoughts, specifically thoughts about hurting women. And to make it worse, he starts to talk about those thoughts out loud at work. And as you can imagine, it's pretty uncomfortable for everyone around him. People are like, yo, you need to chill, bro. And I don't know exactly what happens, but eventually there's an altercation between Ethan and one of his female coworkers, and Ethan ends up getting fired. And this pisses him off even more. And little by little, he isolates himself from his family, from his friends, and it's lonely as fuck for him. And so one day, he's on Instagram, and he comes across this woman he used to work with back when he was a teenager. Her name's Autumn. And Ethan always thought Autumn was fine. So he slides into her DMs and they start chatting. And pretty soon he's like, so, you wanna hang tomorrow? And she's like, sorry, I already have plans. And a few days later, he tries again, like, wanna hang? And again, she's like, nah, I have plans, bro. Here's the thing. Autumn is really not into him. She's just trying to let him down easy. But Ethan doesn't really get the hint. Maybe he thinks she's playing hard to get, I don't know. But he keeps texting her, and all it's doing is freaking Autumn out. And eventually, she just ghosts him, stops answering. I actually have screenshots of his text. Like, hey, are you doing anything tomorrow night? 2 weeks later, hey, what's up? 2 months later, hey, how are you? And she never answers. So I imagine Ethan is frustrated with the women in his life, and women in general. And bro just snaps. He's finally had enough. Someone needs to pay for all this rejection he's going through. So he opens his phone, he taps on the Tinder app, and he starts swiping, looking for a girl. Any girl. And soon, boom, he gets a match with this woman. Her name's Ashlyn. Ashlyn's 25, and she works with kids with special needs. She's a really good person. So Ashlyn and Ethan, they start chatting, and they hit it off, and they decide to meet up. The next night, they finally meet. Ethan drives to her house, he picks her up, and they go out to a local bar. And he's polite, he's nice to her, and they're there for about 4 hours drinking and hanging out. And Ashlyn, she's kind of feeling him, and he's kind of feeling her. So he invites her back to his place to chill. She's like, alright. And so they go back to his place, and they watch a movie, and they end up smashing, and eventually they fall asleep. And it seems like this date is going pretty well, and maybe now Ethan understands that not all women are out to hurt him. Until around 3 a.m., Ethan wakes up, and he sees Ashlyn next to him, and he watches her sleep for a moment peacefully, and that is when he snaps. Suddenly, pow, he wraps his hand around her throat, and he squeezes as hard as he can. And she wakes up, and he's choking her, and she fights back, and she hits him, but he's just too strong, and he won't let go. Then, he does finally let go, and suddenly he runs into the kitchen, and as Ashlyn struggles to catch her breath, he comes back with a knife, and he starts stabbing her over and over again, like 10 times. And as she lays there, injured, dying, Ethan calls 911. And he's like, I just unalived someone, and I want to unalive myself. And the 911 operator's like, oh shit, and she immediately dispatches police. Minutes later, police arrive at Ethan's house, and they find Ashlyn, and as you can guess, she unfortunately doesn't make it. And when police ask Ethan what happened, he's like, we were on a Tinder date and we came back to watch a movie and then I woke up and I unalived her. And police are like, you attacked her completely unprovoked? And Ethan's like, Yeah. And so, bam, they arrest him. Here's his mugshot. And he's charged with first-degree murder, and ultimately he ends up pleading guilty, and he's sentenced to a minimum of 15 years in prison. So yeah, be careful on your dating apps.